We have Mr. KV Kamath, President of the New Development Bank. Mr. Kamath, pleasure having you. Really speaking to you after a long time, after your new assignment. So how are things panning out in the New Development Bank, and what are your plans going forward?
We had said that we want to start operation in the first quarter of this year. And in fact, we did our first few loans in April on schedule. So that kicks off the ball. Our focus, as you know, is infrastructure, and within that, a sustainable infrastructure. So the first set of loans that we have done are all green. And what we believe is that green today is not just showcasing that you want to do green, but it becomes an economic imperative. Green projects are getting viable, and we believe in funding these projects. There is a lot of economic sense.
Shyam, if I could ask you, in terms of the book size, how is it at this point of time? And as you know, you have been ICICI Bank at this point of time is on board. Are you also speaking to other banks? How it's going to shape up?
Well, in terms of the NDB's book, it is going to be a gradual process because you need to get your staffing in place and so on. So in the first few months, what we did was worked with secondees from various institutions from all our member countries, a few consultants, and got ourselves going. So I think the foundation has been built. The next step is building our own staff, which I think in the next 8 weeks we will get it going. In terms of partnership strategy, we are clearly saying that our objective is to partner with local institutions, be they banks or development institutions. And we are in that context signing MOUs with various banks in all our member countries. So I think it just happens that in India, ICICI happened to be the first one. So we will look for other partnerships also.
And lastly, sir, if I could quickly ask you, back home, we know infrastructure has been the thrust in the last 2 years of the Modi government came in power. How do you see things panning out? On one hand, a lot of initiatives have been done, but the other hand, we all know how banks' balance sheets are stretched. So how do you see things in domestic?
I would de-link the two. Clearly what I see from sitting in Shanghai now is a strategy of the Indian government to drive things through the center, as it were, or the states, as it were. Now, this, incidentally, is the same strategy that was adopted by India in 2001-2002, when the wheels of economic growth were driven by the Vajpayee government through the Golden Quadrilateral and then the Gram Sadak Yojana, the Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, and various other infrastructure initiatives, primarily driven by the government and then taken up by the private sector. So I guess that at this point in time, I'm happy to see the pace at which the government is pushing projects, particularly roads. And then I'm also seeing the action taken on the power front. I think remarkable work has been done in these two areas. And I think this will kickstart the economy. And then the others will fall in place.
And so quickly on the balance sheet and the various reforms that have been initiated in the banking sector as a whole, NPA is one concern with things unraveling each day. How do you see that?
Again, I look at it from sitting in Shanghai. But let me just put it in context. When I looked at China 10 years back, 13 years back, in 2002, the NPAs on an economy which was 1.2 trillion were 550 billion. Roughly half of the GDP was NPA. It has been cleaned up. I think our NPAs by that yardstick are a fraction. So, I do not know what the noise is about. What is required is solutions. We need to work at solutions. And there are solutions from around the world which we have to see. What I will say is, and having seen things elsewhere, a recipe for failure is if you don't grow. If the country doesn't grow, then bad debts become, they put a lock around your neck. But if your country is growing at 7.5% and the assets are productive, all this gets worked out. So I'm sure clearly India is on a path where it's coming back to 7.5% growth. The next step is probably aiming for double-digit growth. My belief is that most NPAs will turn productive in the short run, not in the long run. Again, harken back to what China did, 50% of GDP. We are probably at 5% or I don't even think it's 10% of GDP. So I think we should make less noise about this.
Coming to the sector specific, China with the huge steel work capacity, which has impacted India also to an extent, and because of that, the NPA's balance sheet, besides the infrastructure, the steel sector is also facing that. Is there any turnaround and resolution that you see?
See, this is a bigger global challenge. As capacities get surplus elsewhere, we'll have to figure out how to balance them out. And I'm sure that will be an interesting challenge that will be faced.
And sir, from a policy perspective, and lastly, if I could ask you, any specific things that you think needs to be addressed? A lot of things have been addressed, GST particularly being a biggest issue.
I think all initiatives that this government is working on, again, from a slightly distant perspective, appear to be the right things to do. And I wish that we push through these, resolving whatever outstanding issues are there at the earliest. So I'm sure that will change the face of economic progress.
Kamath, once again, thanks a lot. Pleasure talking to you, sir.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.